Hi everyone, it's Tom with the LEC recap of the third and final week of the LEC Spring Split playoffs and the final week of the LEC Spring Split overall. We've crowned our champion, and although you probably know who it is, I still want to go over all the matches that were played and share some interesting highlights as usual. And at the end, we'll discuss the teams and how they performed. Now, it started off with G2 versus Rogue, and I think for many people, G2 were the favorites heading into the series. G2 reigning champions, Reckless on their lineup now, looked stronger, and even though in the playoffs they had been looking weaker, traditionally when they had dropped to the lower bracket, they would bounce back very strongly. So most people, me included, assumed that they would bounce back strongly as well. And Rogue, even though they looked much better against Shogun of Fear than they did in their first series against Mad Lions, still comparatively the underdog. So it started off really well actually for Rogue. They had a very strong start with Inspired in the jungle, repeatedly invading jungle of Jankos, stealing the blue buffs, and it also got them the first blood. So Rogue's early game was incredibly strong, and it looked like, okay, wow, Rogue's really here to fight. But G2 struck back because they had a composition that when even, they would eventually get ahead. They had the scaling composition that scaled much better. They had Caps in the mid lane on Seraphine for the first time in his career, which was interesting to see him play a bit more of a supportive role, but he did pretty well. Obviously, still a very good mid laner. And yeah, G2 closed out that first game simply by being able to scale well. Wunder was playing pretty well actually on the Urgot in the top lane, despite having a counter in Karma facing him with Odo Amna playing that. So yeah, G2 took that first game, and I think many people thought, okay, well, G2 comfortable, playing well, but Rogue actually struck back in game 2. They switched things up and started playing Jinx and Thresh in the bot lane. G2 adapted pretty well actually with one of the best drafts I've seen from them, maybe in the entire split. With a Nocturne, they had a Twisted Fate, they had a Jhin, they had a Blitzcrank, which meant if they select a target, the target is gonna die. Rogue had the early game, but G2 did come back as soon as all those ults came online. So we saw into effect Caps teleporting, Nocturne, Jankos pressing R on the Nocturne, just diving somebody and killing them. But I have to say that Rogue held on impressively well during the game. They played around the map very well, and what they did is they navigated around the map in such a way that it was very difficult for G2 to make those picks. And that's very impressive to me because basically with most global ultimates you can just select any target, but Rogue made it very difficult for G2. Rogue was getting the dragons. Inspired just once again have a massive lead on the Nidalee. He was playing exceptionally well in this entire series. And off the back of a great team fight, actually, it was Rogue who closed out game number 2.
Crocodile and Rogue have pushed G2 backwards. It's Rogue inside the pits.
Waiting out there, an External could be huge here. The front line is much weakened for Rogue. Trippy goes in.
That's the flash. Death Sentence will not find its target just yet, but the curtain call is pulled and Reckless stays safely on the back line. Dominus has timed out. The Infernal's down.
Who's going to win the smite?
G2 inside. It's a flip.
Oh, Reckless!
It's Reckless! That steals away the dragon, but at what cost? Mickey's already down. Get excited for Hans Summer. He managed to fire those fish bones rockets all the way into G2's backline. Gold Card will slow him down, and Reckless still escapes with his life. Larson and Inspired trying to kill the retreating members of G2. It's a double kill from the Cougar form Inspired. And Jankos runs for his life. Teleport coming in, Larson going all the way forward. Dashes, kills Jankos where he stands. And Rogue are now tapping on the...
In game 3, Rogue once again came with a curveball. They put Odo Amne on Nocturne duty, which is a champion that we've seen a few times now in the LEC and has been played a bit more overseas in China and in Korea. But this game started to be a bit more explosive. The early game was super hectic, lots of engages, but it did calm down later. Though for a moment it really felt like, okay, this is just the game where every team, like both teams and every member is just going to fight until the very end. Again, it was Inspired who showed up. He was probably having the best series I've ever seen him play. He was dancing circles around G2 and getting his team ahead on the Lilia. And this time Rogue was actually far more dominant in the entire map throughout the entire game. Whereas in game 2 we saw like for a moment G2 really rise with those map plays. And picking with the TF and Nocturne. This time around it was Rogue who's controlling the map incredibly well, moving around, knowing exactly how to set up and where to set up. Yeah, they were just much better in this game than G2 was. They were making the picks. G2 was just nearly invisible on the entire map. So super comfortable victory for Rogue in game number 3. Dominant team fights, just won the game. And then in game 4, Rogue spiced things up again with Varus in the bot lane. G2 answered with caps on Silas in the mid lane, taking some of the ultimates from Rogue, but it didn't really do much, because for the 4th game, it was kind of the same story as game number 3, that Rogue was just playing the entire map very well, and G2 was nearly invisible. Rogue very strong in the early game. G2 was struggling to keep up. 25 minutes into the game, there was a 7k gold lead for Rogue. They were 11-6 in kills, and this just snowballed throughout the entire game. I think that it showed an incredible lack of power from G2 this entire series. Whereas Rogue doing their Rogue thing, which it did very well, as I said in my preview video as well. Rogue does what they do incredibly well, and they just outmatched G2 actually pretty comfortably. And then we went on to the grand finals, Mad Lions versus Rogue. And I think heading into the series, it was fair to say that Mad Lions were still the favorites, because they had defeated Rogue in the first round of the playoffs. Rogue had already played a match against G2, so maybe they were also a bit more tired of this. So it was Rogue's biggest test to see if they would be able to overcome Mad Lions in the grand finals. And in game 1, it looked a bit, it started off not so well for Rogue, actually, because Elyoya was doing Udyr what Inspired did to G2 in the match on Saturday. Farming camps on cooldown, getting a lead. Inspired was falling behind Elyoya, and this is something that has been pivotal to Rogue, get Inspired comfortable, make sure he is able to make the plays he wants to make. He's a very smart player, so get him in a position where he can help his team when necessary and dictate the pace of the game together with his team. And falling behind to Elyoya was obviously a big spanner in those works. But in the meantime, Rogue was getting the dragons, and for the 3rd drake, Rogue actually won a team fight with a clean combo from Trimby and Larsen. Larsen on the Orianna, Trimby on the Rel, jumped in, pressed alt, well done. And Rogue was fully back into the game at this point. I think you could really see that Rogue, once they got that opportunity, they got more into that comfort zone, knew exactly how to shift, which is something they've been doing very well throughout the entire season, obviously. Mad Lions kept trying to fight, but Rogue just turned it around perfectly with great ultimates from Larsen's Orianna. Whenever Mad Lions would dive him, he would just press ult, zone them away, and the rest of his team would collapse. So that was incredibly impressive from him. Then, off the back of one of those team fights, Rogue got a simultaneous Dragon Soul and a Baron. The map was just entirely theirs. They continued to see it with their composition, and they took game 1. In game 2, Rogue had a very strong opener this time around compared to game 1, where, as I said, Mad Lions was looking stronger. Inspired ruling in the jungle, 2 early kills for Trimby actually on the Rakan, which was surprising to see, obviously. But he was playing very well, especially in his first 2 games. 2 drakes went Rogue's way, but Mad Lions bounced back very well when the team fight phase came around. There was a complete flip actually from what you'd expect from after watching game 1, where it was Rogue with the better team fights and Mad Lions in the early game with the better map play. Now it was the other way around, with Rogue with the better early game and Mad Lions having the better team fights, which is something I guess many people would have expected to be the case heading into the entire series. Anyway, yeah, Rogue was trying this time, but Mad Lions kept finding great engages. Armwood on the Gnar was performing very well. Humanoid, who had been playing very well versus Larsen in basically every laning phase of this entire series, was playing well. 2 inhibitors went down for Rogue throughout the course of the game. Mad Lions kept applying the pressure very well. And with 2 inhibitors down, 3 drakes on each team, it seems still that it would definitely go Mad Lions' way because of all the map pressure they had, how each team fight was going out, and that is when Rogue struck.
Control in the jungle once again, setting up for the Ocean Soul.
3 seconds though, I think Mad Lions can burst this down. You can see Rogue are running for the fight. They need to get there.
It's all or nothing.
Inspired, ready to go for the wall, 6k. Will they commit?
Shockwave
goes wide, that's massive. That could be the fight, but Odoamne taking big chunks. Party on the way in. Inspired gonna find 3 with the ultimate. Trimby with the follow-up. They're gonna lock everybody down.
They got Humanoid.
But Rogue still holding on for now. Rogue fighting into the pinch. Rogue with the GPL that is mad, retreating back into Rogue territory, and it's Ocean Soul for Rogue.
So Rogue kind of stole the second game, Mad Lions threw it, and 2-0 up, everybody was expecting, okay, Rogue will be the LEC champions. Now, this is where Mad Lions woke up, and one person in particular, it was Armut. Even though in game 3, Rogue had a very good draft, they had a Caitlyn, Morgana bot lane, Tristan in the mid lane, and Karma top lane. They had 3 winning lanes, and with Hecarim in the jungle, it seemed, okay, Rogue just has everything they want and more. But Mad Lions actually started pretty well with a few kills. Rogue started to wake up shortly after it and got a pretty big lead with funneling the gold again to Hansama, who had like a 2k gold lead over Karzi. And it seemed actually that Rogue was bouncing back super well. They were playing around the map again, as usual. They were sieging on Mad Lions' base and Mad Lions' towers, and all the time they were moving around. But on Mad Lions' side, it was Armut who had, on the Wukong, been farming for a while. He was actually one of the strongest members on his team. And it all came down to a very crucial team fight where, but basically what happened is that Mad Lions, with the small progress they had been making throughout the game and a lot of the progress that Armut had been making, they found a fight that turned the game around.
Double enchant, like how do you stop the siege? It's so hard without forcing a fight. Armut is teleporting in, it's all or nothing for the Mad Lions.
It's the big bet. Can they do it? Inspired, ready to interrupt. Elia has to go in. They know they have to go for this, but Armut waiting into the darkness. The ulti used, though. The ulti from Inspired does not connect to Hansama, though, the one that you need to watch. The leap back. He dodges the shockwave. Larson untouched. Mad Lions have not found the fight that they're looking for, but Kaiser goes for the re-engage anyway. Elia off the backside. The flash. The stun. Is it enough? Hansama is still alive. Hansama will get shut down. Kaiser grabs the kill. Inspired getting cut down where he stands, and Rogue have to run for the hills. Mad, they found their fight. Mad, they found their opportunity. Can they find more? Ottawamne next on the list, he will fall.
Mad Lions do it again from the grips of defeat. They see their angle into the fight.
Game 4 was actually more one-sided than game number 3. Mad Lions seemed to really be in the groove. Again, it was Armut on the Wukong. It was pretty surprising actually that Rogue didn't ban the Wukong from Armut, given how proficient he had been on it and how actually very game deciding he was. What he kept doing on the Wukong was dive into the Rogue team, split them up, and then his team, Karsi and Kaiser and Aoya and Humanoid, they could follow up and choose one of these split up groups, kill those, and then move on to the rest, or maybe go to an objective or reset and then push out the wave, stuff like this. So it was very surprising to me that Rogue did not ban the Wukong in game number 4. And yeah, there's actually not too much to say about game number 4. It was just Mad Lions, from my point of view at least, who were very comfortable in playing the map again. They definitely seemed to still believe in that they could win. If you saw them on the stage, were also smiling and stuff like this. They actually had a pretty comfortable victory and tied up the series 2-2. So we went to Silver Scrapes, and man, this was so tense. You can imagine being Rogue, being 2-0 up, and then potentially getting reverse swept, but also Mad Lions coming back from a 0-2 deficit and maybe losing it in the 5th and final game. So there was a lot on the line. And game 5, let's just go over it. Rogue picked the safe bot lane this time around. They had the Senna Tahm Kench. What happened was that they finally decided to ban Wukong, even though not many people were sure if they should this time around, because it might not have been the best pick into Rogue's composition. But they, maybe it was just for the mind games that they said, okay, push that one away. And what they actually ended up doing, Rogue, they started to haunt Armut a bit more in the top lane. He was playing the Gnar, which is also one of his most proficient champions. People call him Narmut, or, you know, stuff the community does. Coming up with those nicknames. Anyway, they decided to haunt Armut. He was not allowed to play the game. They kept ganking him top. Trimby and Hansama, as a result of how Rogue was playing, were showing huge in the early in the mid game. They were very proactive, very impactful for the entire state of the map in what they did. And with such a huge lead all across the map, Rogue managed to grab a 21-minute Baron. So it's 1 minute after the Baron spawns. They already got it down because of all the pressure they were having on the map. They also got 3 early Drakes. And it seemed like Rogue would just cruise to a victory after suffering 2 losses. However, man, Mad Lions did not want to lose this series. And 2 people in particular, Humanoid and Armut. Humanoid on the Victor, Armut, as I said, on the Gnar. It was an incredible showing from them because even though Rogue had gained such a big advantage, when the team fights came around and when more team fights came, it was 2 crucial team fights actually that Humanoid and Armut showed up massively. Once near the mid lane, more into the top side jungle of Rogue, and once in the bot side jungle of Rogue, where, well, you just have to see how they swung the game back.
Both these teams are so equally matched, and you can see it this whole series long. It's all about the Baron. Rogue have started it up. Armut's TPing in. Rise with a death cap is going to be massive. Kaiser already burning the movement speed steroid. He's looking for the engage. All of Rogue backing off, happy to just get the TP. When the pressure is on, Rogue have lost their heads a few times, but it will not happen again. They are playing it out slow. They are waiting for the perfect opportunity.
There is no juggernaut in this series. It is so rare to see a final in Europe. Never happened before without a G2 or a Fnatic, but it's within touching distance for both these 2 teams.
Kaiser going in! Caught out. Kaiser whips the engage zone. It's inspired in the middle of everything, but is it too little too late? Odawana tries to find a way to the backside, but it won't matter. Armut into 2! The 2-time TCL champion makes his mark on this final, and Mad Lions are not done yet. It is Hansama running for the hills. It is Rogue falling down in the final moments. Mad Lions may end it right here.
And with a miracle, it was Mad Lions who closed out the series and won the championship. Obviously, congratulations to them. A very impressive performance. Being 0-2 down, then completing the reverse sweep is something that not many teams have done. And they are the first team in over 6 years who are not Fnatic or G2 and win an LEC title. And it's just, I know many people have said it, but it's actually super significant that this happens. LEC broadcast keeps saying end of an era, and it's definitely true, and people are memeing that they keep saying it, but I think this has big ramifications, and hopefully in the future we'll have a more competitive LEC as well. Now, let's talk about some of the team's performances in general. We'll start with G2, who finished 3rd in the LEC Spring Split, and given the roster, given everything that's going on in terms of their strength and in terms of their experience, I think it's pretty safe to say that this is pretty unacceptable for a team like G2 to be 3rd. I can see where it comes from. They didn't feel right with the patch. They had a tough time adjusting to the meta. But you have so much world experience, so much international experiences in general, so many champions on your lineup. Very disappointing, obviously, for them to see, but no team will be more disappointed in their performance than they are. So they have a long time now to reflect on what happened. They have a long time now to find out how to improve their systems, how they work, and how to make sure that for the summer split, they are actually the top team again. I think going forward now, you can start saying that G2 is not favored to win the split anymore. Up until this point, I think it would be unreasonable not to, especially given their historic success, and now with a bot lane in Reckless that has looked so dominant all split long that. But now you can finally you can actually start saying, okay, Mad Lions or Rogue is favored to win the split, because I don't think maybe G2 will adapt well enough. And it was a surprise, obviously, to see them perform so poorly in the playoffs, because in the regular split, they played very dominantly. 14-4 in game score is still exceptionally well. So yeah, that is absolutely a disappointment, but knowing that organization, knowing the players, all the individuals that work with it, they're gonna do a lot to improve and to come back stronger in the summer split and make sure they're on top of their game the entire time, and that they have the right instruments and the right tools to stay on top of the meta the entire time. And then let's discuss Rogue. I think that Rogue absolutely impressed me, perhaps Not the most. That's going to be Mad Lions, but their performance in especially the last week was very good. I did not expect them to be able to defeat G2, but you could say G2 was having an off day, sure, but we saw against Shogun Veer, for example, that G2 that was having an off day could still win the series. Rogue is obviously a much better team than Shogun Veer, so them defeating G2 shouldn't come as a surprise if you see the level of play that G2 had against Shogun Veer, but many people expected G2 to bounce back and to be stronger against Rogue, and G2 wasn't. They were poor in play. Rogue, I like that they started spicing up things more. They didn't really need to do that against G2. They just could stick to what they knew. But against Mad Lions in the finals, we saw the Jinx in the bot lane. We saw Nocturne top. Still not as wild and as crazy as maybe I thought they could have been. But they do what they do incredibly well. And obviously it's incredibly rough for them when you're 2-0 up. And then, they threw game number 3 and they threw game number 5. There's no sugarcoating this. This is just what happened. On the other hand, in game number 2, when they were given the smallest opportunity to climb back into the game, they took it and they managed to win. So I think that this team has improved impressively well in just one split. I think their ceiling is higher than what they've shown here, so that's an exciting prospect. And then Mad Lions. Mad Lions have to be the surprise of the playoffs for me. If you've seen my other recap videos, I have said a few times that I was not very impressed with how they were playing. They were chaotic. Their bot lane especially was playing very poorly compared to what we used to see from them in the summer split last year. So that, for them to explode in the playoffs and 3-1 versus Rogue, 3-1 versus G2 then, and then climb back from 0-2 deficit to 3-2 Rogue is very impressive to me. I still think that there's a lot to improve for this team. I still think that they have a much higher ceiling. I think their early game is lacking a lot of times, and that is something in terms of map play as well that I would want to see them improve, but I think it's very good for them to go to MSI. Many players I've spoken to have said, just the international experience, you learn so much from this. Even still the players from G2 who have been around for so long, every world's like, but it's in scrims we get our heads kicked in by the likes of Damwon or Suning or top esports and stuff like this. And they learn so much from it. And I think for Mad Lions to go to the international stage again after Worlds was such a disappointing end for them, obviously, being eliminated in the playing stage, but now going to MSI, getting that international experience again, even if they get their heads kicked in, I think it will be an incredible experience from them. So on that front, I'm really happy to see them go there, because I think it will massively improve how well this team is playing. And I think in the summer split, this team can actually come back and be a top contender from the get-go rather than hovering around the middle tier, which they did during the regular spring split right now, right? They finished just one win ahead of the middle of the pack. So but I've been very impressed with Mad Lions and the performance overall. I think they're absolutely a worthy winner. In the playoffs, they were the favorites to win basically after round 1 with how dominant they were playing. So props to them and congratulations on the victory. And now finally, to round up the LEC season, let's take a look at the LEC Super Fantasy Top 10 standings. Now, Witacast is the winner of the group. He finishes with 6,648 points in first place. Congratulations, Wita. Stepan is in second place with 6,556 points. LocoX is in the top 3, having 6,208 points. And I dropped out of the top 3. I completely forgot that in the final weekend you have to do a separate lineup for the semifinals and then another one for the grand finals. So I missed out on a lot of points on on that account, because I thought, oh well, you know what? I'll just put on the teams that I expect to be in finals in my roster for the Saturday match for the semifinals, which were, according to my predictions, would be Mad Lions and G2. So I put no rogue players in there and a few G2 players. So yeah, lost a lot of points there. But anyway, moving on. Bene in 5th place with 5,802 points. Faramir with 5,773 points. In 6th place, Never Lucky with 5,710 points. In 8th place is Panda Barleys with 5,565 points. Then is Goldfire at 5,468 points. And in 10th place is Lucky Reed with 5,422 points. So that is my final LEC recap for the spring split. I'll be doing previews and recaps again for the LEC summer split. And I'm trying to get maybe a few more interviews to publish on my YouTube channel. Unfortunately, my requests were declined for video content. Still have an article interview coming out. You can follow me on Twitter to check that out. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I can still maybe do an interview for video to round up the spring split, and that will be my spring split conclusion. I'll probably take a short break, take some rest because I'm really tired after all that is said and done, and then we'll look forward to MSI because I absolutely plan on covering MSI. But for now, this was my final LEC recap for the spring split. So thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. As I said, I will be publishing much more content around MSI as well. And obviously I'll be back in the summer split with the previews and recaps. So thank you all for watching and stay tuned for more content.